going to have a look at what's grabbing headlines here in France now. Of course, it's time for the paper review. Flo's here, and lots of focus on Prime Minister Manuel Valls. He's once again going to push a controversial package of economic reforms known as the Macron Law through Parliament. Explain what this is all about, though.
Well, let's start by looking at the front page of Libération. There's an illustration of Manuel Valls looking a lot like the snake from the Jungle Book, Ka. You can see him with those spirally eyes. Come on, trust me. Trying to hypnotize people into trusting him. Now, back in February, the government sparked a media firestorm for using a constitutional loophole called the 49.3, the 49.3. That's a part of the Constitution that essentially allows the Prime Minister, the government, to push a law through Parliament without a majority. Now, this was a very controversial thing to do, and he did it for the first version of the Macron Law. And, well, according to Libération and lots of papers today, that's exactly what he's going to do again with the second version of the Macron Law. He's going to use this constitutional loophole once again to bulldoze this law through Parliament without a majority. Essentially, what he's trying to do is avoid a protest vote from other socialists, the socialist rebels we've been talking about so much in the last couple of months, essentially, who don't like this Macron Law because they think it's too business-friendly and not socialist enough.
Okay, and it comes just a few days, doesn't it, after he called for unity at a big Socialist Party Congress.
That's right. Libération says it seems like the Prime Minister has a very short memory. And in its editorial, it's quite critical of the Prime Minister and the President. It says, come rain or shine, both Valls and Hollande are hell-bent on muscling their way forward despite all the criticism they're receiving, including from within the left. At least they're consistent, though. That's what Libération says. The problem is, though, we're not seeing the results that they've been promising for the last years. The economy has not been boosted from all these pro-business laws. The only concrete result that we've seen so far is a bunch of angry and confused voters on the left. And if we take a look at L'Humanité, the main communist paper here in France, well, it's very angry today. It's likening Macron, actually, so the economy minister, Emmanuel Macron, to a cowboy. He's laying down the law with his buddy, Manuel Valls, the prime minister, and they're using the caliber 49.3 parliamentary atomic bomb that they have in their hands.
Now, the government does hope, though, that the Macron Law will boost the economy, drive down unemployment, but many people are calling for a broader reform of the labour market.
That's right. This is something we hear a lot about here in France, is that the labour market is way too complicated. French labour laws are too complicated. Well, Le Monde has a very interesting preview of a text that's going to come out tomorrow. It's called the Declaration of Worker Rights. Now, it's a text that was published by the labour law professor Antoine Lyon-Caron, and also the former Justice Minister Robert Badinter. He's a very important figure within the Socialist Party. He was, well, first of all, former minister, but also he's very well respected. He's seen as being quite a moral authority within the party. And so he writes this text along with this other legal expert, and they're very critical of what they call France's obese labor laws that are partially responsible for the cancer that is unemployment for French society. And the text that is going to come out tomorrow says that since 2012, the government has offered a series of half measures that don't actually satisfy anyone. You can see Le Monde here talking about this new war of labor laws here in France. I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot more about this.
I suspect we will. We're going to stay with Le Monde now. It's focusing on an IMF report released yesterday, in fact, that contradicts the so-called trickle-down theory.
That's right. The trickle-down theory is a very popular theory that says that as long as the society is getting richer, well, this wealth will trickle down to the poor. So it's interesting that it's the International Monetary Fund that is saying that actually this theory is wrong. This is according to a report, they analyzed 150 countries. Now, according to this new research, it points out that actually when top earners in a society make more money, it actually slows down economic growth. But on the other hand, when poorer people earn more, well, society as a whole benefits. So it's an interesting report. It'll be interesting to see how it coincides with another interesting report that comes out in Les Echos, the business paper. They talk about how, despite the crisis, the number of millionaires across the world is growing. It increased, the number of millionaire families increased 16% in 2014, especially in the Asia-Pacific region, which is set to become the world's richest region.
And finally, we're going to talk about the baccalaureate now. It kicks off tomorrow, in fact, here in France. And as usual, the first exam is philosophy.
That's right. The first exam is always philosophy. Now, as students are busy cramming, perhaps stressing out about their exam tomorrow, there's one thing they can relax about, and that is spelling. You can read about it here on the front page of Le Figaro.
This is very good news for me.
It's very good news for me as well. I wish were passing my back today. Spelling is the big oversight of the baccalaureate this year, and inside you can read more about it. Spelling mistakes are less and less sanctioned by examiners. Not only that, examiners have received guidelines to be lenient with students. Now, Le Figaro is outraged about this, says it's bad for the nation. I think they should bear in mind the words of a former U.S. president, Andrew Jackson, who said, "It's a damn poor mind that can only think of one way to spell a word." And I agree with him.
Perfectly summed up. I wish we could all think like that. Flo, thanks a lot. Flo Villeneuve with the French papers, of course.